Let's bring the January meeting of the Long Island Railroad Committee to order. Are there any public comments?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 public speakers signed up to speak. With your permission, I'd like to quickly go through the safety information.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. Yes, please do so.
No problem. Good morning, everyone. Your safety is our first priority. The following are the procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and then follow instructions. If you're told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, please leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell exit A across the main hallway or stairway E down the hall past the elevator lobby. Notify emergency personnel if you need assistance. An automated external defibrillator, or AED, for use by trained personnel is located in the main hall just past the elevators. Mr. Chairman, we have 3 public speakers who have registered to speak this morning. The first is Jason Pinheiro, followed by Murray Bowden and Omar Vera. We would ask the speakers to please adhere to the 2-minute limit for their comments and to note the clock up front, which gives you the time remaining, and the fact that a warning will come on with 30 seconds left.
Good morning, Long Island Railroad Committee. Couple of issues that I want to bring up this month, and that is to install Wi-Fi aboard trains and enforcing fare payments, just like Sunrail in Central Florida, because we are seeing a practice that's normally a New York City Transit issue. We are seeing it also on Long Island Railroad. And we're asking management to move one of the AirTrain ticket vending machines from Penn Station to Atlantic Terminal Brooklyn, Flatbush Avenue, because all trains that depart from Atlantic Terminal Brooklyn, that's my home station, has to stop at Jamaica and, of course, fix East New York Station, because that station is a disgrace. I was there recently a couple of times, and that station needs to be fixed. And regarding the decrease in ridership, I want Elisa Pica and Philip Ann to take this very seriously, because we don't want a chaos. We want a system that is in the 21st century. And having that in mind, if we have people paying fares and people that don't pay fares, why not the conductors enforce the rules of letting people know that they have to have their fare ready before the boarding trains, just like in Sunrail in Orlando, Florida. So it's time to change. And that's all I have to say for this month.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Murray Bowden.
At the last meeting, Neil, At the last meeting, Neil proposed that they come up with a way of cutting the time for something or other from 15 months to 10 months. He was saying we can't do it the same way we always did it. We need to do it a new way. Chuck asked if there were anybody had an idea of doing things differently, because the same way doesn't seem to work anymore. And at the first meeting, I said Susan had to be replaced because she was prepared to accept married pair railroad cars, when at the board meeting I saw her say, well, we order stuff for next time. But that's not what's appropriate today. Which brings us to you, Mitch. Hi, Mitch.
Hello there, sir.
I know you're there. You're listening. Hi, Chuck. You missed me. I just talked about you. What's your responsibility, Mitch? The governor said, let's put the 7th Avenue trains, I can't find the words. Let's do the tunnel a different way. I've said to you 100 times, let's do the railroad crossings different ways. You're going to take that responsibility and find a way to do it differently, the way Neil suggested, the way Chuck demanded? Because if you can't figure out how to make the railroad crossings use only traffic lights, you don't belong here either.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our third and last speaker is Omar Vera.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to January 2019 edition of the MTA's Long Island Railroad Committee. And for a brand new year, this is actually going to work really good. First of all, for car upgrades, we should have, like I said, both Wi-Fi and more space to put luggages, because very often, many people often use the LIRR to travel to JFK Airport. And of course, also, if the governor's plan ever goes through with Air Train LaGuardia, that'll probably be the same thing at the Flushing stop, or Wills Point. Sorry, Wills Point. But in any case, yes. So we should have enhanced Wi-Fi, all the stations as well, not just the trains, because remember, we're supposed to be moving forward. And of course, with that, I reiterate this tons of times before, but I'll say it again. Have the air train machines at the at Flatbush Avenue, the Atlantic Terminal, just so people can travel there. If the Brooklyn passengers don't want to go to all the way to Penn Station, they can just take the train with a discount to Jamaica for the air train to JFK. And last but not least, so hoping everything goes fairly smooth, and keep up the good work with the East Side access, because people are going to need that. Those who want to go to access the east side of Manhattan from Queens and don't use the subway, but rather use the LIRR, we need to give more options. That's why we're supposed to be Excelsior. Always strive higher. In any case, have a good one, and see you around.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public comment period. Thank you, sir. I have the minutes of the December 10th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Second, all in favor? Motion is approved. On to the President's report. Phil?
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to thank all of my staff, all of our field personnel that braved the harsh winter elements this weekend, and even today as we managed through this weekend's winter storm. With the support of our labor partners, we were able to promptly respond to any weather-related incidents, allowing us to provide service and to keep the Long Island Railroad running safely. We know that we cannot control Mother Nature, but we can be better prepared, and that's what we've been doing with all the winter prep work on the Long Island Railroad Forward. By protecting switches, installing third rail heaters, and working with our partners like PSEG to replace utility poles proactively, we're able to better prepare ourselves for storm events like this weekend's. Additionally, we know we need to stay focused on making critical upgrades to our infrastructure, allowing us to step-by-step improve service. As I committed to everyone on day one, it was to bring a new sense of urgency to the work we do. Customers told us they wanted better real-time information so they can make informed decisions about their travels. That's why I'm excited to announce that at the end of this month, we'll be launching a beta version of a new real-time train information tool. As you can see from the video here, you'll be able to select your station. You can exactly select your train, see where your train is. You'll be able to zoom in on the train and see the consist size, so you'll be able to know where to position yourself on a platform. And you'll be able to also look through the system for planned work, planned outages, and even unforeseen incidents as they may occur. It's important that I thank our maintenance of equipment employees who worked tirelessly to install GPS on our trains, our IT folks who partner with us, our public information departments for their hard work to review what's important to our customers. And I hope that's just an example of an incident. And special thank you to Will Fisher, our Innovation Officer, for his dedication and leadership on this effort. We look forward to hearing customer and employee feedback so we can continue to improve this tool. It is my goal to eventually make this our primary source of information and consolidate the number of platforms that we currently use, improving consistency of information to our customers. In other good news, the railroad hit a modern-day record with over 89.8 million rides in 2018. I want to thank all the men and women at the railroad for working around the clock, hitting and even beating deadlines as we continue to upgrade and expand our system for today's riders and to meet the needs of the future. There's an unprecedented amount of work happening throughout the system, and last month we achieved 93.48% on-time performance. And this is a direct result of managing through low adhesion season to better ensure that we minimize impacts. Last year's impacts from low adhesion were felt into February. With our great partners at Capital Construction, we completed over 10 stations with upgrades to platforms and station houses, another commitment to our customers who use these facilities and to the communities who take pride in their local train station. Our new double track is proving successful, improving operations and flexibility during planned work and unplanned incidents. And third track grade crossing eliminations and other system improvements are already underway. Buckham Road and Post Avenue bridges were elevated last year, and since then no bridge strikes have occurred at these locations, making it safer for our customers and employees and simultaneously making it better for the community that the local road supports. We expect similar results later this year with the replacements of Nassau Boulevard, South Tyson, Cherry Lane, Acaponic, and North Main Street bridges, which experienced over 60 bridge strikes in the past 8 years. Between the grade crossing eliminations in the mainline project and the bridge work along the main line, we will again be taking more steps with improving reliability of service by eliminating these problematic locations. And in just 8 months, we've accelerated and upgraded 10 problematic switches, installed 60 snow switch covers, outfitted all 296 grade crossings, among other delay mitigating initiatives. These proactive efforts are making a difference, and we're completed in record time. But we know we have a lot more to do. With ridership and communities continuing to grow, we have to double down on corrective maintenance that has been deferred for decades. We're holding contractors, their subs and suppliers, and ourselves accountable to make sure that we meet deadlines to improve service more quickly. We're managing with a sense of urgency, understanding that time is money, and through improved communication, we're letting our partners know that we expect them to change with us. With new revenue streams like congestion pricing and value capture being discussed, we also have to be creative and think outside of the box to get projects that have been in the pipeline for decades started so they just simply not end up being ideas on the shelf. So the Yaphank Station is underway, and the planning and scope development for Central Branch electrification and Port Jefferson Branch improvements are in the works. In the coming months, I plan to continue meeting with industry, local community leaders to identify opportunities for value capture and other potential private sector interests in key railroad improvements such as electrification and addressing single-track territory where a single incident can shut down a branch. We're looking for innovative ways to move ideas forward and turning them into projects, not tied to being just the traditional revenue streams. And we're continuing to push industry to get the necessary electric and diesel fleet in place to support this upcoming effort, our growing ridership, and our mainline expansion projects. We will continue our state of good repair work and necessary upgrades at key stations, ensuring that we prioritize the needs that best utilize available funding while we seek other sources. And to that point, I'm pleased to announce that we've received our second Adopt a Station sponsor, a $60,000 per year for up to 2 years from CBRE to improve our customer information area at Jamaica Station. New revenue streams like this are paramount to modernizing the railroad for future generations and to retain critical funding for day-to-day operations, maintenance, and repairs. We've added new forward initiatives, and we're setting new goals for 2019 that will be treated with the same sense of urgency. Our enhanced partnership with PSEG has proven a great success. They've accelerated work and replaced 80 poles in 2018 and have committed to pushing themselves even more as they've identified another 108 for 2019. And through this aggressive approach, I'm proud to say we've had no poles fall on our tracks, an issue that has plagued operations in the past. We've also been working with them on using drones and helicopters for their static wire inspections and seeking new opportunities to prioritize and address a long-standing issue on static wires. We've accelerated track repairs, increasing the amount of joint welding by 20%, doubling the frequency of track defect testing to catch potential infrastructure issues earlier, and as I mentioned, committed to repair and upgrade 10 additional priority location switches. And our M7 threshold replacement initiative continues 1 year ahead of schedule. I know that the cleanliness of cars was a topic the other week, and it remains a priority for Long Island Railroad. However, it's important to let all know just how hard our car appearance maintainers work, and that part of my responsibility was to review their challenges and find ways to make their jobs easier. Under Forward, we tested and introduced different tools, different cleaning products, and sought strategic locations where they could get sufficient time to work, as our trains are constantly being used, making multiple trips for the majority of the day. Having said that, we are combining that with a customer courtesy campaign that is enhanced because we need their help as well. And our amazing crews, they are working around the clock and tackling every inch of our cars to keep them clean. Not only do they mop up spills, pick up trash left behind, but as the images show, they scrub the floors, a new scrubber that we purchased, clean the seats, under the seats. They clean the windows, clean the bathrooms. And I also do want to thank our customers who do help us clean and use our platform trash bins, helping us help them. So in 2018, we exceeded our expectations for customer contacts. Our weekly Meet the Managers program will continue throughout the system. We even have folks out there today. And our Long Island Rail Care program has been a tremendous success with over 700 assists compared to 16 for all of 2017. We hope our customers will continue to take advantage of our enhanced customer-facing programs. We are planning the next round of customer conversations. I, along with members of the Long Island Railroad planning, engineering, and operational staff, will be available in Nassau, Suffolk, Queens, and Brooklyn to share all the work that we are doing to make the railroad better and to answer questions and continue to address customer concerns. We've taken significant steps to change how we operate. In addition to all the capital work going on, our crews have increased the frequency of maintenance, and we continue to test and try new technologies and processes to get jobs done more efficiently. And our strong partnership with Amtrak, PSEG, and Capital Construction have streamlined and improved communication with the understanding that we can no longer defer critical work. And while we all wish we could flip a switch and modernize our system overnight, we will continue to make strategic decisions that allow us to tackle long-standing issues one by one and keep the forward progress that our customers deserve. Our new train information tool, public-facing programs are giving customers more options and information than ever before. The hard-working employees and our labor partners at Long Island Railroad all take pride in the progress we've made in 2018. I'm confident we're making the right decisions, and I know we're headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Comments? Randy?
Yeah, as Metro North Commuter Council rep, I love that idea about the GPS. So my questions are, were you working alone on this? Does Metro North have the ability to put the same thing in there so that our riders can share that information?
We did work on this product internally. Part of this was building out from the GPS that we were installing on our trains all summer long. When I first started, customer on-time, real-time information with regards to when their trains were arriving was a priority. So if you recall, back in the beginning, we used the GPS to improve our platform time arrival signs. It went from stating a train is on time or delayed to actually giving minutes to arrival. So that was the first step. As we continued to build out the GPS and had more greater accuracy, we were able to then now use this as a way to provide a visual for our customers to actually see where their trains are. We certainly can work with Metro North with regards to the opportunity to do something similar. I'd have to check on the technology of whether or not, I do not believe they have the GPS that we've installed.
So you were working in kind of like a vacuum about this. You were working with silos, not across the lines.
Yes, I guess.
Thank you.
Neil?
So I want to build on what Randy said. I think this is a good example, having been well, actually, we're the only two veterans on the board, two Army guys. I find it very funny that we're falling into the old trap of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines issues. You may remember in the Grenada situation in the early 80s that none of the military forces could talk to each other because they all had separate radio systems. And when the public talks about, and we hear rumors about Metro North and Long Island Railroad combining, this is a good example of why you would do something, because the notion of having such an offering for Long Island Railroad and not in parallel working on it for Metro North is shocking to me in many regards. It is not as if those in Nassau County, Queens, and Suffolk have a very different desire of communications than those of us in the northern suburbs. I just think that's shocking. And Phil, this is not meant to ding you for what is a very smart idea. It's to ding us as an organization, because that's clearly something that I'm confident our riders would love. I know I don't have to even ask my colleagues for that. And a more positive question, which is, who sold those station sponsorships? Who was the selling entity within the MTA?
Good morning. We've been working with MTA Real Estate, so MTA Real Estate is our representative with the potential sponsors for the program.
So one idea, just to build on that, I think it's a fantastic idea. It's clearly, that's what I would call gravy, money that was not elsewhere. I would suggest we talk to real estate about working with Outfront, who is our outdoor advertising partner. They have obviously a very extensive sales force that can work with countless customer types out there, far more than we can on a select one-by-one basis. If that's who real estate is using for the actual selling, great. If they're not, I highly recommend we do that.
Just to, and MTA Real Estate, of course, works very closely with Outfront. They've been very careful to distinguish this program, which is a sponsorship program, from an advertising perspective, which is what Outfront does.
Well, just to add one more point, for those of us of a certain age, and I'm actually not even this group, if you may remember the early days of television, sponsorship was the route of advertising. The Alka-Seltzer Hour, the Chevron Hour, the Texaco Hour, those were sponsorships. So it's just a different name for advertising.
Vinny?
Yeah, just a quick comment, or maybe just words of caution relative to the use of the app and the GPS. Just as a reminder, and especially to this board, to recognize that our train crews and our operations people, dispatchers, block operators, conductors, locomotive engineers, they have very strict rules as to the use of electronic devices, which conveys this point. These apps can sometimes get ahead of our operations. And I understand that, which sounds really good to many. You need to also recognize that if our customers get ahead of our operations people, that doesn't always look too good. The distraction of electronic device in the industry, and even in my personal opinion to riders, we all bump into people that use devices. And again, I would never take that away from our ridership. But we have to recognize that we can't stay ahead of our operations people and have our customers end up getting information before our crews do and before our operations people do, because they don't have the access to the same technology. Not that it's a bad idea, but it's something that we have to recognize and be concerned about. The second point I'd like to make is we certainly appreciate the words of appreciation to the hardworking crews, especially our car appearance maintainers, who you recognize, Phil, for doing a great job, and they absolutely do. Same thing as our engineering folks and the people that are working on the right-of-way in these kind of elements during the cold and weather conditions, which we haven't really experienced. We'll take this weekend over any other weekend, right, Glenn? I mean, we didn't get any snow, but we'll be ready when it does come, that's for sure. But we recognize the challenges of funding, and we talk about it all the time, and labor understands recognizes the challenges of funding. But nothing replaces headcount, so we need to help staff. We need to help the agency recognize that bodies cleaning the trains are what make trains clean. You know, bodies working on the tracks, swinging hammers and moving things and repairing things are what make our system better. So while we go through some struggles, we have to recognize that we have to position those funds for the proper headcounts that we need moving forward. Thanks.
Chuck?
Two comments, if I may. As I said earlier today, one of the very few attributes of the aging process is you learn from history, or if you try to learn. The sponsorship route has been used before. in Metro North extensively. And indeed, we resorted to trying to get outside people who volunteered to try and help us get it. It's a process you have to be careful with in terms of getting the kind of people you want. A major effort was made at Metro North, and it was for a while successful. But there are problems that come with it, so be aware, if I may. Number two, on the subject of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, let alone shaking hands and working together, let me make the point that that is fairly endemic. The procurement task force has been working primarily with transit and has achieved significant savings of time in terms of execution of various projects and items of work that have taken time to complete, thanks to Steve Plotchuk and Pat Foy. I will tell you candidly, the level of interaction between that task force and the Long Island Railroad, based on discussions we had this weekend, Phil, on various procurements, astounds me. There just isn't that kind of interaction. And it leads me to one of two conclusions. Either somebody is going to have the left hand shake hands with the right hand, or somebody is going to merge the two. Perhaps the latter is better and a single procurement operation. But I will tell you, and I'll give you examples. You have within the context of the Long Island Railroad issues with respect to procurements, especially sole source, that are just the worst within the entire MTA system. Those kind of issues have been addressed very successfully within New York City Transit. And I congratulate Phil for paying attention to it and trying to get that started. But it's really got to go across the board. This is one agency, and it has to start functioning like one agency. And that's the challenge you have ahead of you, Phil.
Chair, if I could just
Go right ahead.
add a few comments. I don't want to give the impression that President Rinaldi and I are not communicating. We are working on a number of initiatives, and we do talk regularly. There are other things, for instance, with the importance of fleet for both agencies that we're talking about. We're looking for best practices as well as new practices. So we do go through different month-to-month talk about our initiatives. With regards to the sponsor program, it's something that it was born out of a need for finding new revenue streams. It also is one where that I observed, over the course of my time, is that we have a lot of needs along our whole right-of-way. Just as an example from my DOT days, the sponsor a highway program was one that I found very valuable, where it introduced a new revenue stream to allow roadside litter pickup, things of that nature. In this case, I'm looking for these sponsors to provide resources, not only to provide improvements of customer information, but also to provide resources that better fund our employees on these special needs that we have along 700 miles of tracks that go along the community. So it's a way of trying to be creative, think outside the box, and take advantage of opportunities that we haven't looked at before. So I just wanted to get to that point, and just appreciate the comments, and thank you very much.
Randy?
Can you give us the timeline when that app would become available?
We're looking at the end of January.
Okay, then, because I can't find another time to ask this question, I'll ask it now. Are there plans being made to get Mark equipment back up here for this summer? I know we had a very cold weekend, but summer is coming. Is Mark going to be willing to fulfill this contract with us for additional cars?
I've been discussing myself with them. We've also been talking to them about 2019. And while we still have that option available, they've not committed to us for 2019. So we are still exploring other opportunities for the summer. We've not given up on and looking at other ways to enhance our diesel territory fleet. But until I get a full commitment from them, I cannot say that they're going to provide us the cars that we've asked for.
Anyone
Which
else?
is why we're focused on new fleet, trying to change industry, and have cars delivered in a much more efficient and improved timeline.
Thank you.
Anyone else on any comments? If not, we'll move to the safety report.
Good morning. We're reporting on our safety performance through the month of November 2018, and that report can be found on page 19 of your book. Some key highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention. We have experienced a 53% decrease in our reportable customer injuries, as well as a 25% decrease in the average reportable employee lost time injuries for this period over previous periods. I also wanted to point out that we've made remarkable progress on the grade crossing front. Our incidents at grade crossings are down 56% from 16 to 7. I'd like to attribute that to the very aggressive installation of delineators and painting of stripings at all of our grade crossings. That's had an immediate and remarkable impact on the number of incidents that we've experienced there, as well as our partnership in Ways. And finally, I wanted to bring to your attention, slips, trips, and falls continues to remain a challenge for us. And one of the areas that we're aggressively pursuing is our safety performance in yards. We completed a comprehensive risk assessment in 18 of our yards and have identified and prioritized those risks, as well as actively engaged in identifying resources. But we also wanted to make sure that we engage with our employees, because so many of our employees take great personal pride in the workplace, in the work setting that they're working in. So for the first time, we began a contest where employees could nominate their fellow employees that demonstrated superior attention to their workplace. And I'm proud to announce that 4 groups were identified based on their employee nominations. So congratulations to our Comptroller's Office in the F&A building in Jamaica, Track Gang 286, which is an engineering gang that works out of Patchogue Yard, our Maintenance of Equipment Department in West Side Yard, the car appearance maintainers, who you saw featured in Phil's presentation earlier, working very hard to keep West Side Yard in superior shape. And finally, in Atlantic Terminal, the Station Department Station Appearance Maintainers, supported by the Jamaica Heavy Duty Cleaning Gang. So again, we found that we had great response, and we want to continue to engage with our employees and foster those good work practices. So we look forward to continuing the contest in 2019, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Chuck?
Ms. Ebbinghausen, first let me thank you for the job you've done so well for so long. But let me see if I understand something. Your quote a few moments ago, we have made tremendous progress, unquote, with respect to broken gates. There are more this year than last year.
I was actually referring to the grade crossing incidents. You'll see in our in the table prior to that, the grade crossing incidents in 2017, there were 16 incidents, and in 2018 we're down to 7 for the same period of time. So in actual events themselves, we've actually...
How do you square that with the fact you have even more broken gates than you had the year before?
So with the broken gates, the challenges are slightly different with the broken gates. The broken gates are attributable to people being impatient and wanting to get across the crossing, whereas the grade crossing incidents, they've taken it to a whole nother level of risk, where they're actually going around the grade crossings or turning on the tracks.
So my question for you is the following. Has any significant thought been given to the installation of cameras, something I usually abjure?
Yes, so we're actively pursuing that, and I know the engineering department has installed or is working to install cameras where they're rehabilitating the crossings. And I think we've had the conversation before. The challenge is not just installing the cameras, but the consequences to the behaviors that we witness at the crossings, which appears to be more of the area that requires attention.
So that takes me to the point I wanted to go. Please, please, let the members of the board know if you are sponsoring legislation to deal with that issue. Kamikaze pilots do not belong as grade crossings, and neither do cowboys. And the issue really is that there ought to be punishment. The local communities, in many cases, are reluctant to do it because of voter anxiety, put it nicely. Maybe the legislature ought to do the job for them. And the members of this board didn't get here through ads in the New York Times or the New York Post. They have friends with whom they speak regularly. if you will let them know when you have legislation pending on this issue, I'm sure they, recognizing the safety concerns, will be in touch with their friends in the legislature to urge that it be done. And if the local legislators don't want it, for whatever reason, they are only a fraction of the state body.
I think we've had this conversation before, unfortunately. We keep having this conversation every year. I don't think there's any question that most of us, I won't speak for everybody, would strongly support state legislation on the matter to make it, to have consequences for going around the gates and whatever, and the cameras at the various grade crossings. We have asked MTA Legal Affairs to send us, and they did send us, the 2018 bill. Hopefully someone in the Senate and the Assembly will look at and introduce the 2019 bill, because you have to reintroduce them. It seems to me cameras at grade crossings is kind of like in the same status as cameras on the bus lanes. We all think it's a great idea, and we can't get the state legislature to do something about it. Maybe 2019 will be different in that regard. Hopefully we will ask MTA Legal to send us the bills again. I know I've had conversations with some of the Long Island delegation who have expressed great interest in the bill. Hopefully we will have 2019 be a different success story than 2018 was.
Commissioner Murler,
Perhaps this,
Go ahead, Bill.
perhaps this may be a little crass and over the top, but think about this. For those legislators who refuse to pay attention to this for whatever reason, perhaps the next grade crossing accident in their district, the replacement gates ought to be named after that legislator.
I just wanted to add that we are focused on grade crossings. We're focused on the issues with gates. And as I kind of my opening remarks alluded to, is that it's really looking at different opportunities to tackle them. And there's no one solution that's going to tackle all 296 crossings. But it's a combination of the capital program, which I'm happy to say, the mainline expansion project will eliminate 7 grade crossings where we have gates, and the fact that that is a main line is going to be huge to eliminate those gates along that corridor. Problems that exist today will no longer exist when that project is done. Laurie mentioned the effort with regards to looking at cameras and looking at enhanced technologies that improve grade crossings. That's combined with the mishaps where cars turning on tracks, which we're very proud of how we've reduced those incidents. And then the other part is education part, and I know MTA PD works very closely with us with grade crossing safety. I know I joined them that time out at Central Islip, where they were not only talking with regards to driver safety, but also pedestrian safety and not crossing under the gates when the gates are down. So there's a lot of things going on. We are focused on it, but we have 296 of them, and we're going to stay vigilant with it. And we're going to continue to look at new technologies, including cameras, Commissioner Murler. I know we've talked about cameras and other things, and how we instrument cameras and fund those types of things is something that's paramount for the future.
Randy, do you want to add something? Go ahead.
Yeah, at the end of last year, after Commissioner Murder's impassioned plea about the Cowboys, I called all of the office of all the elected officials in Rockland, Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess, and I even got Nassau County because he was a sponsor. And when this week of meetings is over, I'm going to focus on it again. And I'll keep the committee, as I did before, keep you advised on what I did find out. That's all I can tell you right now.
Thank you. Susan?
To add to what Randy has said, everyone that I've spoken with understands the need. We need to make it clear to those who perhaps don't have railroads in their districts, because it seems to die for
some reason.
Some reason.
Right. Some reason. Anything else on safety? If not, MTA Capital Construction? Jano?
Okay.
And we did, at the Metro North meeting, approve a new contract for rail access from the Bronx.
Yes.
Which, of course, can't be implemented, rail access from the Bronx, until East Side Access is done. And as a result, JANO has moved up East Side Access by 1 year to 2021 so that the people from the Bronx can get, just for you, Chuck, so the people from the Bronx can get there. Am I correct?
People of the Bronx, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, anytime.
All right, well, I detect a note of irony about the East Side Access schedule. And I'm going to actually say we are dead serious about the East Side Access schedule. And it's not a conversation for today. I'm not going to report on East Side Access today. We did a report at the at CPOC last month, but we are wrestling through all the issues that I've kept this board involved in, and I want to acknowledge that we are dead serious about that 2022 opening schedule and about getting Metro North to Penn in a position where we've lost a year, as I said to you a couple times, on Metro North to Penn because of the Amtrak struggle, but that's been resolved now with the governor's help, and we are dead serious about getting that service ready to take over some of the slots that will become available at Penn. The purpose of last month I passed on giving you a report on the third track project. I want to do it today. I'm going to try to go fast. I always seem to end up in this spot. But the reason I'm doing it, just to underscore, is that I think it is, in many ways, the avatar of the new project management and cost containment approach we're trying to adopt and implement with the board's leadership. So trying to keep you very close to what is going on, and I'll go through this quickly. So I think, as everybody knows, this is the $2.5 billion project. Most of it is in the current capital program. There's about roughly $500 million that we need in the next capital program. The next couple months, I'm going to come to you with some adjustment of which is the scope that is in the next capital program versus now. It's all going to be purposed at trying to make sure that we're doing things in the right order to maintain schedule. But here's the report on construction progress, which is we are well along in advancing the third track, the installation of the third track at that point in Floral Park, where the third track project starts at its most westerly point, because that's where the 4 tracks we experience out from Jamaica become 2 with the split of the 2 branches. So right now there's a ton of work going on, which I'm not going to detail, but to build the piers that you will install that third track on as the project begins. And we're very proud of the fact that we have had really good community discussion in Floral Park, which has been historically a place where they were sensitive about Long Island Railroad work. And that is going well, and you just see some evidence of it there. Covert Avenue is scheduled for closure in April, and there is a ton of work going on getting that ready. We demoed, there was a major property which we acquired on time, and we demoed that. And we did a ton of community, I mean, every time you see a demolition, you think about what the impact on the surrounding area is. It's a mostly commercial district right along the right-of-way. And we did a ton of community outreach and close coordination with the neighbors and the local jurisdictions. So that is going pretty well. The Harrison Garage in Mineola did have some, it's an important piece of work. Make sure that we have the right amount of spaces and the right phases of this project for people to continue to operate on the railroad. We did have some delays because we're struggles with getting the utility relocations done with PSE&G, but we brought it back to being on schedule for that construction to be completed in the third quarter of 2020. So I'm happy about that. Little image of supportive excavation work in that area. Carl Place. So this is an interesting and complicated project. The design builder, this is why you do design build, for creativity, for innovation. They figured out a way to demolish the platform in sections so that the passenger service could be maintained throughout construction. And I think that the original plan was going to require like a 1-year station closure, so the Carl Place community and folks who use the station were really thrilled. The old station platform has been demolished, and the new platform, which will be constructed to the south, is scheduled to open in the second quarter of 20. And one of the interesting things, again, this is about what we learned from Eastside Access and other mega projects, is the importance of access to especially in these constrained right-of-way jobs. So we actually built an additional access point with a temporary access ramp to get ready for supportive excavation at Carl Place and the upcoming bridge widening at Cherry Lane. So that is learning lessons from, as I said, other mega projects and from the whole cost containment initiative. Also, in the category of innovation, I think, is that we're using an innovative backfill material that will allow for when you're dealing with creating new land, in effect, a new area for right-of-way, having something that's going to allow you to operate more quickly and more efficiently, and using these kinds of new materials is obviously favored, and it's being used behind the retaining walls. We're building a ton of retaining walls along this right-of-way in order to create the environment for the third track, and I think that this is going to save us money and time. We've done 180, I'm always reporting to you on these numbers, but we're proud of them, 180 meetings plus. I think we're getting towards 200 with different community institutions. We meet with the 5 mayors and their staffs on a regular basis. Among the regular meetings is with fire battalion chiefs, and we did that. This is just a picture of that. We've done and these meetings are used to have a lot of regular discussion about road closures and traffic detours, and to make sure that we're maintaining, from a fire protection standpoint, an extremely safe environment, even with some impacts to traffic that the construction will have. So that's, again, part of our outreach program. Community incentives. This is our maybe our MTA maiden voyage on paying contractors or creating contractor incentives based on community reviews. So we're sort of running a Yelp type system. It's a little pre-digital because we send out the report cards for community members to fill out, and there are several $100,000s of incentives that are at risk for the contractor, depending on what kind of grades and feedback we get. So we sent out almost 2,000 scorecards recently, and we expect to be able. It was for the evaluation of the design-build contractor's performance in the last quarter of 2018, and we expect the results in mid-February, and I'll keep you posted on that. A lot of outreach during, as we're starting to ramp up during this post-notice to proceed period. We had, in Newcastle, we've gone door-to-door with our community ambassador team, canvassing in Creole and Spanish as well as English. And when local roads had to be closed and the garbage trucks couldn't make it down the streets, as shown in some of the photos presented, the design builder went door to door collecting people's household garbage. Now this is, extraordinary, but I think it is essential to maintaining good community relations. And here's an image, just a quick, very short video from somebody's doorbell cam of our workers, the design builder crew, bringing mums over to the Carl Place Station residents as a token of appreciation for their patience during the construction that was taking place for them. And so that doorbell cam captured the moment where we alerted and the local folks were kind of blown away and shared this doorbell cam video. So it's something we're proud of. It's not just nice to have. This is the essence of running a good project in a densely populated community where people are concerned about quality of life, and I'm proud that we're able to do something a little different on this front. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions on the presentation? Scott?
Jen, just out of curiosity, the 2,000 people that got the surveys, how were they chosen?
I need to look to my team to help me answer that question, or get back to you after the fact.
They were within 800 feet of the corridor.
Okay. Folks who are within 800 feet of the corridor.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Jano.
Sure.
MTA Police? Chief?
Good morning. Well, system-wide for the month of December, major felonies decreased by 46%. 13 versus 24 crimes. For 2018, as I stated before at the Metro North meeting, all the railroads, including Staten Island, had the lowest amount of felony crime in the 20-year history of the MTA PD. Long Island Railroad experienced in December a decrease of 45% in felony crime, 6 versus 11. For 2018, Long Island Railroad saw a decrease of 9%, 96 versus 106 crimes. For the Long Island Railroad, the largest decrease in crime categories was in the crime of robbery. The decrease in robberies was 64%, 8 versus 22. Penn Station actually had 0 robberies for the whole year. And Penn Station, their total crime was down 26%. That concludes my report.
Chuck?
I failed to ask you this before. Of the large anti-Semitic incidents, where were they, Metro North or Long Island Railroad?
The Long Island Railroad, of the anti-Semitic specifically, 7 were in the Long Island Railroad, 8 were in Metro North, and 2 Staten Island. And that's the specific anti-Semitic category.
How about the black?
5 Long Island Railroad, 0 Metro North, and 1 Staten Island.
Has that been the case in terms of the number of black incidents being predominantly out in Long Island?
I would say yes. You know, it fluctuates year to year, but that's the proportion is probably the trend.
If you could let me have that, it's something I think the public ought to know and see what they can do about it. Those, I assume, have been largely violence. Am I wrong, the black one?
There's a higher percentage of person-on-person, more like the crime of aggravated harassment, verbal harassment, opposed to an assault or, like we talk about, the criminal mischief, graffiti.
And have you been pursuing arrests in those instances?
Absolutely. All but 1 resulted in an arrest and prosecuted to the fullest extent.
They were actively prosecuted?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
If there's no other commissioner comments, I'd like to just say thank you very much to MTA PD, Chief Monahan, staff, our station folks. You know, a lot of talk about collecting lost fares. One of the things our folks observed at in the Hollis area, at our Hollis station, use of fraudulent credit cards to purchase monthly tickets. And without getting the specifics, MTA PD was able to set up a process and actually capture the folks using fraudulent credit cards. It's something that we continue to tackle, but I want to say thank you very much to you and your staff, and you know, for helping us to address an issue like that.
That was an example of fine detective work, working closely with our patrol and your staff.
Thank you. Veronica?
Just a quick personal anecdote to support Phil's comment, but on Metro North. I was on Amtrak last week and coincidentally ran into a team that was in one of the Metro North stations doing its own surveillance, and so it was very nice to see them doing their work. So thanks to that team that was doing that, and to the overall department.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, and to all your staff in that regard. We have one action item, which is the approval of the proposed committee work plan, which is on page 34. Moving forward in regard to all of the appropriate reports, I will move it. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is approved. On page 42, we have the PTC status report. Phil, do you want to add something in regard to that?
Nothing to add. We have staff here available to answer any questions if there are any.
My understanding is that we are running PTC service on Port Washington as
that's correct,
as required under the statute.
Yes,
and meet all of the federal criteria.
Absolutely.
At the moment. And I know there'll be a full report on PTC at the joint meeting next month in that regard. So if anybody has any specific questions today or we can hold them until next month when we'll do a full report. Okay? Very good. Winter track program, page 50. We have the, all the work that's going to be done in regard to specifically the Atlantic branch, so that people can see what is happening there in that regard. Is there any questions on that item? If not, Long Island Railroad procurements.
Good morning. Procurements are in the book and they begin on page 52. There are 4 items in this month's procurement package in the total amount of $1.7 million. There are 3 items in the non-competitive section in the amount of $1.4 million and 1 item in the competitive section in the amount of $300,000. Of the 3 sole source procurements, there are 1 to conservation station in the amount of $300,000 for the redesign of a current LED signal. GE is the OEM of that particular signal. The conservation station is the evaluated reseller who will be performing the work on behalf of GE. The second item is a request for approval to award a contract modification to Illuminator Mass Transit in the amount of $510,000. They will provide lens covers for our C3 coach fleet that are resulting from the installation of cameras in our across the board in our fleet. The third item is a request for approval to award a 3-year contract to Nordco in the amount of $542,000 for replacement parts required by Long Island Railroad to operate and maintain various pieces of Nordco equipment. The fourth item is a competitive procurement in the amount of $189,529 for to Newmont Elevator, who will provide third-party witnessing of safety inspections and tests for Long Island Railroad's elevators and escalators throughout Nassau, Suffolk, Brooklyn, Kings, and Queens counties. These items are submitted for your consideration and vote.
Questions on any of these items? Randy?
So when I read this procurement about the signals, you installed 8-inch wide signals on the new section, and now you're going to change them to 6?
It's not that they're being changed. There's additional locations that require signals to be installed. We've adopted a new type of signaling. We call it reduced aspect signaling. It's basically the same as what Metro North uses. There's a long-term savings in cost. We used to use these large signals that went on overhead bridges. We're now able to use basically ground-mounted signals to accomplish the same function. Just in some of our locations, because our track centers are very tight, those type of signals that we used to use don't fit. So the signal has to be redesigned to enable us to install them there.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on any of the 4 items? I'll move them. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The items are approved. Capital construction?
Good morning. Capital construction procurement package this month consists of 5 items and totals $37.5 million and begins on page 69 of your committee book. All 5 items are in the competitive section. Items 1 and 2 request approval to enter into publicly advertised and competitively solicited $0 contracts with 2 firms to provide professional staffing and services on an as-needed basis. Item 3 is a modification to the program management consultant contract for a 5-month extension totaling $33.2 million. Items 4 and 5 request approval for modifications to the East Side Access System Facilities contract to implement changes to the design of the field network and installation of HVAC exhaust shafts and utilities at the 23rd Street facility. These modifications total $4.4 million. These items are submitted for your consideration and vote.
Questions on any of the items? Chuck?
I apologize. 2 very quick questions, if I may. What is Hill going to do under the personal services contract?
Under the personal services contract, the two firms that were listed, we sent out task orders for support staff and services. They would be, these two firms will be added to an existing list of 32 firms that would competitively participate in these requirements when we get them.
You've just expanded the list.
We just expanded the list, right.
Second question, if I may. With respect to the URS contract, I'm doing this in place of Andy Saul, who was not here, but take a look at this. The original contract was $28 million. Then the board approved it for $135. Then it went to $164. Then it went to $620. Now it's $784. You know, this could get to be real money.
Okay, can I respond to that, Mr. Merdler? Because I have the same reaction that you do, which is this is a 20-year-old contract, which has grown multiple versions of its original amount. It bears no relationship to the original contract. So we have focused on this. When I came, I think when I first inherited this, what we did is we said, we evaluated whether it was timely to rebid the whole thing, and instead we put a year extension on which we had an option for. We exercised the option and added a whole lot of incentives and performance measures, which we've been applying, I think, successfully. Now, what I'm asking for the board to do is to give us another 5 months, during which time we will seek additional concessions from the contractor, including a reduction in rates and adding additional incentives. I'm determined to have all of these CM and personal services contracts be much more outcome driven in terms of how contractors are compensated and rewarded based on whether the project is going well, whether we stay on time and on budget. And if we do not accomplish improvements to the contract such that I can come to you in good conscience and say, the binary choice at that point will be, I will come to you and say, we should sign these guys up for the balance of the East Side Access Project, and I will at that time enumerate to you why it is a good deal and a market deal, and why it has these additional incentives that make it worth doing, or we will rebid it. And I'm prepared to risk the breakage of a change in personnel, even though we are racing to get this done, if we cannot achieve the kinds of incentives and penalties and compensation structure that I have in mind.
Janet.
We are. Let me just finalize by saying I have been happy with the way that we have restructured. Remember, they're supporting in large part the 14B concourse contract, and we've restructured how we're operating under Mr. Troop's leadership and some other people I brought in. So I'm happy about it. On the other hand, URS/ACOM has had significant leadership turnover in the last couple of months at the Northeast level, and I'm not totally thrilled about how that's going. So that's my plan, and that's why I'm asking your indulgence for another 5 months.
Jano, I'm perfectly happy to do that because of the confidence I have in you. But I do want to make a point to you. Not only has this thing gone from $28 million to $784 million, not only has it lasted the monopoly, if you will, for that extended period of time, but they've been bouncing the contract and the performance among other people. So, for example, Bechtel gave this contract to URS. It seems to me that one of the issues I'd like to hear you address, if you do not rebid it, is why not? Because it seems to me you can't have, if we're going to have competitive bidding and people have competition, how do you have this happening? The guy just gets the contract and flips it. Okay, you know what happens with flipping real estate.
I know you sometimes make mention of how long you've been on the board, but we'd have to have a discussion about what took place between 1998 and 2017. All I can tell you is since we got it, I got it in 2017, I've changed the value of the contract, instituted incentives and penalties, and now I'm on a path to potentially rebid it for the first time in 20 years if I can't get satisfaction on different rates and terms. So that's what I'm going to come back to you on.
Let me just ask you one more thing in terms of futures. would you keep an eye on the flipping in terms of some of these large contracts? It's troublesome because you've seen it often in the context of construction as between the various Dragados companies and the like. It's not necessarily a good thing in terms of competition. So just keep an eye on it, if you will.
Will do.
Any other questions or comments on this item? If not, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Motion is approved. That ends the procurement. We have the performance summaries for the railroad, starting on page 78. Are there any questions regarding any of those items? If not, oh, go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
Many of us, or at least some of us, get this publication called the Long Island Railroad Today. And some of the concerns that are there set forth in detail and very carefully compiled statistics, if they're correct, are troublesome. So, for example, the fact that we had our OTP at 83.9% for the month of December, the lowest monthly mark in 20 years. That the trains scheduled are down, the trains late are up, and it goes on and on and on. This may not be the time today, but I would like to get from Phil, if we could at some early date, a summary of why this is happening. These are terrible statistics.
Commissioner Merlin, I'm not sure what statistics they're referencing, because I know our December OTP was probably the best we had of the year. It was 93.48, and I referenced that in my opening remarks. You know, what we did during low adhesion season and managing things differently is the reason now low adhesion season was limited to just 1 month. We did not have 3 months of ongoing delays like we had last year. So our OTP in December was, I think, the best of the year, if not close to it, at 93.48. And right now in January, in spite of all the work that we've been supporting, knock on wood, we are in that same ballpark for January so far. I will take a look at what information they're providing, but it's not 80, whatever it referenced, it's not 83 point something.
Okay. Phil will do so. Any other items with regard to the performance summaries? If not, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Thank you all very much.
Why am I turning?